Greetings, chess fans! My name is Arturs Neiksans. I'm the leading Latvian Grandmaster, and I'm starting a brand new video series. And it's gonna be called the Chess Louvre. What does it mean? Meaning Chess Louvre. It's like an analog to the Louvre Museum in Paris, which holds some of the most important art relics in the history of mankind. And I think that also some of the chess games, they really deserve to have a separate place where we could always go back and have a look at them. Wow, chess can actually be played like this. So I will be starting with a very legendary game that was played in the middle of 19th century, almost 200 years ago, more specifically 1851, by Adolf Anderssen, who was the leading German master at the time, and he was also considered to be one of the best players in the world. I mean, back then there was no official world championship match to be fought, which was only introduced a couple of decades later, but Anderssen was considered to be the best, and his opponent was Lionel Kieseritzky. So here we go. They opened up with e4, e5. At the time, this was a very popular way to start the opening, and Anderssen played f4. And the King's Gambit back then was very popular. This was the romantic chess era when players were really going for beautiful attacking chess. And compared to today, back then, the players were really not that great when defending the positions. I mean, nowadays, a lot of players, they know perfectly the concept, initiative above everything, you have to continue charging forward, passive defense leads nowhere. But back then, I mean, they obviously know none of those things. They were our ancestors, essentially, and setting the rules how chess will be played later. So here, after f4, white is fighting for the center and is willing to give up the pawn. Kieseritzky decided to accept it. Now watch out for the queen h4 check, which is gonna force white to give up even more material. Anderssen played bishop c4, develops a piece, and he made sure that after check he can't play king f1, which maybe for some is gonna raise the eyebrows. Why is he moving the king? But actually Anderssen's idea was to continue with knight f3, attack the queen on h4, and then use this to accelerate his development. I mean, pretty smart considering this was played in 1851. So here, black responded with b5. And to be honest, when I first saw this, I was pretty much amazed because black was willing to give up a pawn to accelerate his own development, which for the 19th century was very impressive. I mean, black, of course, didn't have to do that. He could have done something else. Anderssen accepted the pawn. Black played knight f6, hitting the pawn in e4. So knight f3, white developed his own knight. Queen h6. I mean, it kind of makes sense. Maybe it's a bit risky to position the queen on the same diagonal as white's dark bishop, but at least he took care of the pawn on e4 just in case. So perfectly understandable. Anderssen here played d3, which again is a normal move. He protected the pawn on e4, and he was hitting the pawn on f4. Here, black played knight h5. Now, this is not good, and I think it also pretty much explains the vibes of the 19th century. They were really willing to take as much material as they can, and they didn't really, the players at the time, I'm meaning, they didn't really have the proper feeling how much material you can take and how dangerous is your position. Nowadays, I think the best players in the world would never play like this. So after knight h5, black is trying to play knight g3 on the exchange on h1. So it's kind of perfectly understandable, but black should be developing the pieces. So Anderssen here responded with knight h4, which is a very creative way to play. I mean, okay, he could have played rook g1, deal with the same threat, and then proceed to play g4, something that he did later in the game. But okay, knight h4 still looks pretty interesting. He deals with knight g3 and also threatens with knight f5. Here Kieseritzky played queen g5, he hit the knight on h4, so knight f5 had to be played. Black played c6, he was pushing away the bishop on b5. Here g4 was played by Anderssen. Not really sure if this was again the best move. Maybe bishop a4 retreat with the bishop was the safer choice. But alright, I mean here Anderssen was definitely looking for something exciting, and he was willing to give up the bishop on b5 because from Anderssen's point of view, the bishop on b5 was not really doing anything in the attack. So here, black decided first, retreat with the knight. Black played knight f6, and his logic was pretty obvious. I mean, Your bishop on b5 is under attack. Your pawn on g4 is under attack. So I'm going to take either of those things. Here, Anderssen played rook g1, giving up the bishop on b5 for free. So Kieseritzky probably thought there's nothing wrong with that, and he decided to take it. But now this actually is a very serious mistake, and this allows white to accelerate his attack. He should have done something else, maybe go for a counterattack at the king side. Here, queen g6, g5, and land the knight on g4 with a very complex position. Now instead of this, he took the bishop on b5, and look at what happened. Now Anderssen played h4, hitting the queen. There's basically only one move. Anderssen played h5, again, only one move. Queen g5, and now queen f3. And suddenly, bishop takes on f4 becomes a big problem. Not only white is threatening to win the pawn, which maybe is the least of black's worry, the problem is the queen. I mean, the queen is trapped. So naturally here black was thinking, how do I save the queen? So he played knight g8, which saves the queen, which it allows black to retreat to the queen on d8, but at the same time, as you can see now, black is like perfectly underdeveloped. None of the pieces are moving except the queen on g5. So Anderssen took on f4, black played queen f6, I mean queen d8 probably was looking a bit too much for black, and after queen f6 here, Anderssen played knight c3. So we can look at this position and try to understand what's going on. White is down a full piece. And I'm pretty sure that Anderssen didn't calculate this line until a forced win. He just felt that since he has so many nice active pieces, none of black's pieces are essentially developed, there should be something here. So he's thinking about knight e5 and knight c7, and now black has to figure out what to do. So what black tried to do, black tried to develop the pieces with a tempo. Makes perfect sense. So black played bishop c5 here. You see he wants to develop the knight as well, maybe cast a short, and on the way he hits the rook on g1. Perfectly logical. So the problem is black is still a bit slow, and white can immediately charge forward. Here white played knight e5, hitting the queen on f6, and of course black is not interested to give away the queen. And the pawn on b2 is under attack, which hits the rook on a1. So this is what Kieseritzky did. He played queen takes on b2. Now look at this position. The white rook on g1 is under attack by the bishop. The white rook on a1 is under attack by the queen. But white has such a very nice coordination of the pieces in the center, and none of black's pieces are developed. So what Anderssen did, and this is very amazing because again, this was like 200 years ago, it has such a fantastic imagination. Anderssen felt what really is important is happening right here. So it doesn't matter he's down a piece. It doesn't matter that the rook on a1 is under attack or that the rook on g1 is under attack. So what he did, he played bishop d6. He's willing to sacrifice both rooks. So the point of bishop d6, now he's threatening with some very, very cute looking checkmates. For example, if black goes here, king goes here, and queen takes on g1. You already need to watch out for knight g7 and mate on the board. So white is perfectly eligible to checkmate with 3 minor pieces. That's why black cannot take these 2 rooks at the same time. And if black decides to take on d6 with a bishop, knight takes on d6, these are monstrous knights here, and it just feels there's a mate, like check, here, mate on the board. And again, the fact that black has so much extra material, it doesn't matter. All that matters is the initiative, and Anderssen knew it in the middle of 19th century. So here what happened, after bishop d6, black decided to play bishop takes on g1, collect the rook, clearly not feeling the danger of the position. And now comes probably one of the most beautiful moves of this game. So as you can see, the black queen on b2 not only hits the rook at a1, but also protects the pawn on g7. So we cannot play knight g7 because the queen on b2 protects it. So there's no knight g7, the bishop c7 checkmate idea. So what Anderssen did, so he already gave up a rook on g1, he decided to close the queen with e5. So black take on a1 because it's a free rook, it's coming with a check, and then he's going to figure out things later. But after king e2, now the question is, how can black stop the incoming mate? He's up so much material. He's up 2 rooks and a minor piece. And yet he's lost. Completely lost. It's amazing, right? So there's no way he can escape this. How the game actually finished, he played knight a6, stopping the check on c7. And look at this. Knight takes on g7. King d8, so there's no bishop c7 check. The black knight on a6 protects the c7 square. There is no bishop e7 because the black knight defends the e7 square. But then you notice this knight on g8 is doing a lot of things. It's essentially guarding the e7 and f6 squares at the same time. So what do? You simply push away the knight from defending the e7 square. How do you do it? You sacrifice the queen. So queen f6 check. Black has to accept it and checkmate of the bishop. So this is what we call the London Immortal game. And this is one of the most beautiful games in the history of chess. And I think it's always going to remain like that. So black essentially was up a queen, 2 rooks, and a minor piece. And he seemingly did like nothing wrong. And yet he was brutally checkmated with just a bishop on the board. So absolutely stunning concept. But after e5, there really was no defense. I don't know what he could have tried. Maybe f6, knight g7 and knight f6. So again, no matter how you look, there's always a mate, always something here. Queen f4, there's always a decisive outcome from a wise perspective. That's it. I hope you enjoyed it. And I think you definitely should agree with me that such games, they deserve a special place in the history of chess. And I think they are already having a special place. So if you enjoyed the video, please press like and consider subscribing to my channel, which is going to allow me to produce even more content. I'll be regularly posting many more beautiful games played throughout in the history of chess that is admired by every chess fan in the world. Thank you for watching. Arturs signing out.